little tiny rose hips. Okay, 3 little tiny rose hips. Apparently I need some right now, but 3 little tiny rose hips have more vitamin C than a grapefruit. And here's one of the best things. The vitamin C in rose hips tends to be very bioavailable. Now, what does that mean? When you drink orange juice, you don't actually get all that much vitamin C in your cells. You don't, because vitamin C is very in citrus isn't absorbed by your cells very readily. The vitamin C in rose hips is in a form that's taken up by your cells really easily. So rose hips are a great tea to have in your diet to boost your immune system and fight off infection, which is what vitamin C does. Okay, you can eat them, you can use them in tea. And of course, the last herb that's in the back there is mint. I talked a lot about it last night. You can eat it, you can use it in tea. You can even use mint essential oil for things like migraines. Rubbing it on the temples is very effective for a lot of people. But mint is wonderful for your lungs, for strengthening your lungs. And of course, the whole reason why like Rolaids and other antacids taste like mint is because mint is wonderful for digestion, right? They help with acid reflux. And this goes for all the mint family. But you might not know that, as I said, mint is very good for the lungs and it is antiviral. So it's a great herb to have around. So that I don't know if the blend, if Tess put a blend together of all 3, but one of my favorite tea blends in the whole world is nettles, rose hips, and mint. If you're gonna make tea blends to give as a gift, that's one I always recommend because all the herbs in it are incredibly safe, and they're all effective and really useful, and they taste really good. Okay, so I wanted to share that information with you first, to let you know why that tea blend was chosen and that it was available for you back there. And now I wanted to talk a little bit about something that I think is, sorry. Oh. Okay, I'm sorry, I just saw that that message about my slides. Can you all see me okay right now? Okay, so let's see. I wonder if I'm not sure how to switch out of presenter mode.
Yeah, you're fine right now. It was just
Okay.
when you were presenting, we could see both of your
Okay,
slides.
well, let me, when I share my screen again, let me know
Yep.
maybe how I could do that. So I actually have something, this is what I originally wanted to talk about, is how what we eat can really help our brain health, and how that's linked to our gut health. I think it's something that we don't think about very much, but the link is absolutely undeniable. The link between our gut health and our brain health is undeniable. And that has a lot to do with the vagus nerve, right? Vagus, not like Las Vegas, VAGUS, the vagus nerve. And so I'll talk about that. Let me share my screen with you all again. Let's see here. I wonder if, like, how I might do that. Okay. So
Yeah, we're seeing both slides. So I think if you go to the top left, it should say like swap presenter or something like that. Yeah.
oh, does that help?
There you go. That's perfect. Thank you.
Hey. No, that's great. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So very appropriately named, it's all connected because it's absolutely true. But this is really what I'm talking about. This is sort of I mean, and this is a very unscientific diagram of the vagus nerve. This is actually not what it looks like, but you'll get the idea. The vagus nerve is your original nervous system. And one of my friends, he's Ojibwe, and he lives up in Toronto. And he said, really, the vagus nerve is like the memory of your original nervous system. But that original nervous system, like when you were a fetus and as you started to grow, is part of your central nervous system, and it connects every part of your body. But there are some linkages that are really important to talk about, because we are abusing our central nervous system, our vagus nerve. And we are doing that through our diet. So I wanted to show you this, that really all of your organs are connected. It is one system. When we talk about, the respiratory system versus the digestive system, those things are actually very closely related and connected to each other physically. So literally connected. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit, but here's a sort of a better diagram. What does the vagus nerve mean for brain health? So as you can see from this diagram, which I think is pretty good, it's very simple and very simplified. But when you have an abnormal central nervous system or an unhealthy vagus nerve, or an unhealthy system, that can lead to a lot of stress, a lot of disease. And that, of course, abnormal gut function is the center of all of that. So we have little critters, of course, living in our digestive system, in our gut. And we can, there are foods that we eat that actually kill our healthy gut microbiome, and will feed some other less healthy critters, right? And so it's important to, if we want a healthy central nervous system, a healthy gut, which then will lead to a healthy brain, we really need to start thinking about normal gut function and how we can make sure that we're nourishing that healthy gut microbiome. So as you can see here on the left, when we have a healthy central nervous system, a healthy vagus nerve, and a healthy gut, that has much different consequences as opposed to an abnormal gut, which will lead to an abnormally functioning central nervous system. So this is really what I wanted to focus on today, is how do we make sure that we have a strong gut microbiome, and that the connection between our gut and our brain is strong and healthy, that we're sending good signals from our gut to our brain. How do we make that happen? This is a connection that I love to talk about a lot. When we eat fermented foods, okay, if you're intimidated by all the words on the screen, I hate putting all these words on the screen, but I wanted to make sure this was really clear. And everyone has different learning styles, so if you're better at like reading stuff and understanding it, that's fine. But if that just looks like a jumble of letters to you, close your eyes and just listen. So when we eat fermented foods and foods that are high in fiber, which coincidentally happen to be traditional foods very often, right? But when we eat these fermented foods that have lots of prebiotics and probiotics, we make our gut microbiome happy. I mean, kind of literally. I actually saw a video where they showed the bacteria in our gut on white sugar, and they were like moving really slowly, and they were just like, if gut bacteria can look depressed, they look depressed. And then they showed gut bacteria after eating fermented foods. And in that case, it was sauerkraut, like real sauerkraut, not the vinegar sauerkraut, but like real lacto fermented sauerkraut. And like the bacteria literally looked happy. Like they were just moving around, you know, really doing their job, helping us digest food, things like that. And so when you eat fermented foods, the critters in your gut become happy. And happy gut bacteria produce gamma aminobutyric acid, which is known as GABA for short, and that is a neurotransmitter. So using the path of the vagus nerve, the GABA sends a signal from your gut to your brain telling you to calm down. Okay, and I'm gonna stop sharing because I want you guys to like focus on me and like see me for a second. Let me see if I can. Okay. So I want you to see me when I talk about this because this is so important. We have a lot of depressed and anxious youth in our communities, and you know, a lot of depressed and anxious people in general. But I really worry about our youth. Even like down here, I'm in North Dakota. And so, you know, I have the Mandan Hidatsa Arikara Nation, I have Ojibways near me, and I have, of course, Lakotas and Dakotas near me. And in this area, we have some of the highest suicide rates in the world, and particularly of young people. And I worry about that a lot. And a lot of it is attributed to depression and anxiety. Regularly consuming fermented foods has been shown to have that calming effect because of that connection between the gut and the brain through the vagus nerve. And so eating fermented foods every day is a super duper simple and ultra safe way to help people feel less depressed. And am I saying it's like a magic pill? No, I mean, that's not what we're saying, right? It's not like some magic pill that you take overnight that's automatically gonna like put you to sleep. But over time, eating these healthier foods and these foods that help to nourish our gut microbiome, it really does help to alleviate depression in the long term and anxiety. It helps to reduce stress. And that strengthens our central nervous system, and that makes it easier to deal with conflict and stress and trauma. So one of my friends, and she gave me permission to talk about this, her name is Tipiziwi Tolman. She's a Lakota woman, and she lives over among the Nimipu in Washington State. And they actually had a ceremony to talk about like what to do in their communities. And one of the things that came out of the ceremony they did was to eat a tablespoon of sauerkraut, homemade sauerkraut every day. And I always thought that was like wild for them to say, like, in this ceremony, the spiritual leader who was running the ceremony over there actually said, we have to start changing the way we eat. We have to nourish our gut microbiome, and like the message that the spiritual leader got was to start incorporating 1 tablespoon of sauerkraut into your diet every day. So she was saying, my friend TPZ was saying that in the evening when they like take their vitamins and, you know, brushing their teeth, before they do any of that, her and all her kids and her husband eat a tablespoon of sauerkraut. And it has made a huge difference in like their digestion, in the way that they feel every day, in their need, like her whole family has gotten off of white sugar completely. Then before they weren't able to do it because they were using white sugar to handle stress. So whenever you're thinking like, I really don't like the taste of fermented foods like sauerkraut or kimchi, first of all, find a fermented food that you like and consume it regularly for your gut microbiome. Now, before I move on and start sharing my screen again, are there any questions about that?
Linda, does that include yogurts and what's the other one? The liquid kind.
Kombucha. It does.
Kefir.
Yeah, kombucha. Yeah, so kefir, kombucha, yogurt, kefir, if you guys have seen it, it's kind of like a liquid yogurt. To me, it's like a cross between kombucha and yogurt. But those actually do have lots of good probiotics, but you have to be very careful because they also have lots of white sugar, which, you know, so for any, it's kind of like saying 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You're destroying your healthy gut microbiome, but you're also like trying to help it at the same time. And sometimes it doesn't balance out because there's so much sugar in yogurt and kombucha. Honey and real maple, which, you know, I know you guys have lots of that up there. Those are okay, you know, those are okay. Honey, real maple, agave are better than white sugar, but you just really want to be careful about using things that are going to be really high in sugar because it's going to negate the positive effects that you're trying to get. So great question. Any other questions?
How about the apple cider vinegars?
Yep, vinegars are good. Vinegars are pretty good. You just want to make sure that, let's see here. Okay, so you just want to make sure that you know, sometimes, well, first of all, let me say that vinegar in food will actually kill the lactobacillus that you're trying to grow, which is why I was saying earlier that sauerkraut, you need the lacto-fermented sauerkraut, like the stuff that's just salt and cabbage. That's it. Real sauerkraut should just be salt and cabbage, and maybe some seasonings if you want, but never vinegar. Vinegar will actually kill the lactobacillus, which is what you want. So you're getting a different, bacteria when you're drinking vinegar, when you're using vinegar, than you are when you're eating fermented foods. And they're both great, but it's good to have both. So even if you're using vinegar, even if you're using kombucha, even if you're using yogurt, I really, really suggest some lacto-fermented vegetables. Kimchi, sauerkraut, as you can see on the photo here, you know, if you don't like kimchi because it's too spicy, it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be that. You can lacto-ferment red onions and red cabbage. You don't have to put chilies in it. Lacto-fermented pickles are what pickles tasted like 50 years ago. So if any of you guys remember, like the pickles in the barrels way back in the day, tasted a little different, right? They have a slight funky fermented flavor to them, but once you get used to them again, they're delicious. And they have so many more benefits than vinegar pickles. So I love vinegar pickles, love, love, love them. So I always make a batch of vinegar pickles, but I always also make a batch of lacto-fermented pickles. And it's so much easier because you don't have to worry about the, in fact, you don't want to do any of the water bath canning or any of the canning like that, pressure canning. Lacto-fermentation is just salt and vegetables or salt and fruit, right? Down in Mexico, I don't know if any of you are from Mexico, but they make a pineapple, fermented pineapple drink called, I think, tepeche, T-E-P-E-C-H-A, maybe. But it's delicious. It's just fermented pineapple, and you can eat the pineapple, and you can also drink the juice, and that's really good. Pickle, like fermented red onions, cucumbers, all of this, very, very good for you, and really delicious. And you know, also this is a great way to use the extra stuff from your garden. And there's all kinds of really great recipes, but let me tell you guys my basic foundational recipe for fermenting stuff. let's say I want to ferment some red onions. For every quart of water, it's 2 tablespoons of salt. And then I just pour that over whatever I'm fermenting. And then I put like either a fermentation lid or you know, some cheesecloth or a washcloth and a rubber band. You know, you don't want to put a tight lid on because fermentation causes gas, and you know, then your jars will kind of explode. So you don't want that to happen. But it's 2 tablespoons of salt per quart of water, and you can just use that for anything that you're trying to ferment. Now, if the vegetables that you're trying to ferment are full of lots and lots of water, like say these juicy cherry tomatoes over here on the right, you might want to add a little more salt. But that's, you know, that's up to you, and you can experiment and see what works for you. Right? When it comes to cabbage and I'm making sauerkraut, all I do is cut up my cabbage and sprinkle salt on the top. Then I massage the cabbage and I have sauerkraut. In like 5 days, I have sauerkraut. It's amazing and so easy. And this is really, you know, this is a simple thing that you can do for your family, right? For young people, for your community. We ferment gallons and gallons of sauerkraut every year, especially since the pandemic began. And we put them in little 8-ounce jars and we just hand them out in our community. Just hand them out to anyone who wants one. And that's a fun activity to do and a nice thing. Okay, so I want to say one more thing about GABA. This is just, this came from online, but so remember GABA, gamma aminobutyric acid, is the neurotransmitter that is produced by your gut microbiome. So when you eat good food, you produce more GABA. Now you can buy GABA in the store these days, like in a little pill, but in my opinion, it is not anywhere near as effective as producing your own GABA through a healthy gut microbiome. So, you know, depression, even issues with autism and ADD and ADHD have been associated with abnormal GABA activity. And like something, I recently was reading a paper that associated food colorings in processed food, in particular red dye and blue dye, with a lack of GABA. So there are certain things that like kill our gut microbiome, and if we don't have a good gut microbiome, then they can't produce GABA, right? So and those things are like white sugar, bleached foods, and then processed foods that have food coloring will reduce GABA activity. So it's important, you know, and then as you can see there, GABA plays an important role in Huntington's disease, epilepsy, Parkinson's, other neuro disorders. So you know, this is important. Okay, I just feel like I'm doing an infomercial because I feel like this stuff is so important. But wait, there's more. The vagus nerve also connects the gut to the lungs, okay? And I have asthma, so I think about these connections a lot. So we talked about the gut-brain connection, but this is really about the gut-lung connection. If you know someone with emphysema, if you know someone with any chronic lung illness, someone who has lung disease, someone who had long COVID and still can't make it up a flight of stairs without running out of breath, you can start incorporating anti-inflammatory foods into your diet. Anti-inflammatory foods include fermented foods, okay? So when you eat these healthy foods, okay, so this is just giving more details on the connection. When you eat these anti-inflammatory fermented foods, they stimulate the vagus nerve again through GABA, sending that signal to the brain, which then will send that calming signal to your lungs. So if you have lungs that are spasming due to asthma, that have been irritated, eating healthy foods can really help to alleviate that and help you to take slower, deeper breaths. Okay, so when I'm talking about anti-inflammatory foods, these are just some of the things that I'm talking about. You know, lots of, like, what do you notice about the picture on the right? They're all green. There's a reason for that. Green really is very, the chlorophyll in green vegetables really is a powerful anti-inflammatory agent. Blue is another color, not when it's fake in the form of food dyes, but like blueberries, very good for you. Lots of oily fish. You know, these are anti-inflammatory foods that are gonna help you breathe better. And really the lesson is that healthy foods are going to make sure that you have a healthy central nervous system, right? So, and then I wanted to share my favorite easy kimchi recipe. You can take pictures of this. I will also be sending this presentation to Tess so that she can share it with you all, so that you can use this if you want. If you have never made kimchi before, it's the easiest thing in the world. I was thinking actually that when I come visit, we could probably even do a kimchi making and sauerkraut making workshop in person. I don't know if we've done that up there before, but if any of you are interested, I always find it to be really fun. And once you know how to ferment foods, you'll always have that skill and you can pass it on to your kids. But let me say one more thing, because I didn't even talk about the connection between what your vagus nerve does for your liver. And I talked a little bit about the liver last night, but it's really, you know, we have these days, they say that upwards of 60% of Native women have fatty liver disease or are on their way to fatty liver. And, you know, that really affects our overall physical health. Poor liver function is something that people don't even think about. People don't think about their liver health, but we have a lot of that in our communities. And so I wanted to talk about that just for a second. So another amazing connection is between your liver and the back of your tongue. Like, it sounds strange, but the vagus nerve has a direct line from the back of your tongue to your liver. Okay, and so when we eat things and drink things, our liver filters the bad stuff out, right? That's what it does. It filters stuff out. We need that. The problem is, these days, the liver kind of holds on to all that stuff until we eat or drink something bitter. Bitter flavors send a signal from the back of our tongue to our liver, and it tells our liver to dump everything it's been holding on to. If we don't eat bitter things, then our liver will hold on to that stuff. And that's what causes liver disease and fatty liver, right? So, it's a really important function, right? That ability to filter. But the problem is we're no longer eating bitter things, right? Really think about the last time you ate something bitter. Okay, even coffee doesn't count, because we're all pouring lots of cream and sugar into our coffees and flavorings these days, right? We have forgotten about the benefits of bitter foods and how important those bitter green leafy foods like dandelion greens, nettles, kale, things like that are to our diet. We think that everything we eat needs to be sweet or salty, and so we've stopped eating bitter foods. And that really has a detrimental impact on our health. When we eat those bitter things and our liver dumps everything it's been holding on to, then our liver has healthy bile production and our liver stays healthy. So when you eat dandelion greens, which are one of my favorites, that will actually help to cleanse your liver. So I really highly recommend, you know, lots of bitter greens, at least a little bit every day. That can be in the form of sauerkraut and kimchi. Okay, So that was just another connection there that I wanted to talk about. Are there any questions, comments?
Linda, does dandelion root satisfy that bitter requirement?
It absolutely does. Yeah. So Tess knows this, but the very first assignment that all of my students have in my class every year, their very first assignment, first day, is they have to go out, identify and harvest 5 dandelion leaves, right? Everyone knows what a dandelion looks like. So it's pretty easy for them, right? A good first assignment. They have to harvest 5 dandelion leaves, and then they have to eat them on camera and send me the video. So they have to send me the video, and I love, you can actually go onto my Facebook and find some of these videos. They're great. It's some of my students, you know, I tell them that the important thing is that you're getting it in your body right now, because really we've grown up thinking of dandelions as being weeds. We don't think of them as food and medicine. So whatever you have to do to change your relationship with dandelions, do it. So I have students who can't handle the bitterness, like they didn't grow up eating any bitter foods like I did. So they'll take their dandelion leaves and wrap them around a slice of bacon and then eat that on camera. Or, you know, I have students who will like douse their dandelion leaves in ranch dressing and eat them like that. You know, ranch dressing is the great equalizer when it comes to food. And so, you know, but whatever they have to do is fine with me, as long as they're changing their relationship and they realize that dudu shabujibik, right, dandelion, is that root, dandelion, is a really important medicine and food, and something that they can eat every day. We just have to change our palate to learn to appreciate bitter foods again, instead of just sweet or salty, you know? So great question. Any other questions?
Hi, I have one question, Linda, and thanks for the handout. I noticed in the handout that there was something about reishi mushrooms, and I heard from someone that to be really careful because they can have some toxicity. Do you know much about reishi mushrooms and reishi mushroom tea?
Yes, I do. So reishi mushrooms and lots of mushrooms are very good at absorbing things around them. And so reishi toxicity is really a result of what's around them. And so store-bought reishi is often grown on mediums that are not very good. Like I actually, there's a whole company based on growing reishi on newspaper clippings. And so they actually were able to find trace amounts of substances in there associated with the ink on the newspaper, and the compound, the chemicals that are used in the newspaper were found in the reishi mushroom. And those are not good for you and not good for your liver. So finding reputable sources for reishi is important. And I have personally never heard of anyone having problems from wild reishi that's harvested in a safe space. That said, it is, you know, also I think important to keep in mind that you know, even spinach has medicinal properties, like a lot of these foods do. Reishi, I use reishi every day. And a lot of these plants and mushrooms have medicinal properties, and you can overdo anything, right? You all know you can overdo water, right? You know, we're always talking about staying hydrated, but you can overdo water. And so you can overdo any of these that we've talked about. So I'm a big fan, and this is the reason also why I hate, I almost never use that word, but I really severely dislike the word superfood, because then people just start thinking like, oh, I need to eat a quart of blueberries every day. That's not good for you either, even that many blueberries, although I can eat a quart of blueberries every day, they're delicious. But you know, everything in moderation is a very old saying for a reason. So, and that includes reishi.
Thank you. And I think it was kind of in reference to, there's just been, it's become popular, trendy to have reishi tea and things like that. So, and there's been some caution. So thank you.
Yep, you're so welcome.
Linda, I want to thank you so much for your presentation and your knowledge. I was really amazed, and when you made the connection to depression and suicide ideation with their young people. So I'd be interested in continuing working along that lines in a traditional healing fashion with the anxiety, depression, mental illness, and all those connected to food sovereignty issues and stuff. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Miigwech, for having me. And you know, when I come up, if you all want to, you know, like there are two things that I've really been talking about a lot lately. One is, how do we help our relatives who are in recovery, our relatives who are trying to overcome addiction, is something I talk about a lot, and that's very connected to diet as well. But so, like, you know, the level, especially, you know, since COVID, unfortunately, COVID, even if you had a very mild case, there are many people who have depression post-COVID, because COVID causes inflammation that you sometimes can't see until a year after you were testing positive. So we have so much like really high levels of depression and anxiety among young people and adults in our communities. And if you wanted to get together when I'm up there, and if we wanted to put little kits together that, like, with tea blends and things like that, that we can hand out to people, or that you all can keep on hand, and if someone comes to you, you can give them this kit. We could, you know, like I said, put tea blends and other things in there. I would love to do that.
And I commend you also on your use of Ojibwe Mo, and thank you. Miigwech.
Thank you. Not being Ojibwe, I'm always very nervous about it, so I try really hard. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for coming today and for having me. I'm always so thrilled to see you all, and yeah, I hope I'll see you again soon. Miigwech. Gigawabamin.
Thank you, Miss Linda. I will be talking to you later, and I'll get those slides and things, and we'll work on plans.
Sounds good. See you, Tess.